Hello, everybody. This is your old pal, Uncle Hondo, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider podcast. It's great to be with you all today. It's Friday. I haven't done a podcast since Sunday. I had to be dad. I had to get my family healthy. As you know, my wife went through some health issues, and so did my son Dexter, but both are doing better, much better. As a matter of fact, we're going to be in Lot J, Shannon, Dexter, and I, starting at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. Not hard to find. Would love to meet you all. So if you're going to the game and going to be there, please make sure you say hi to Shannon and I. We would really love it. And I appreciate all of you for all your kind wishes. Several of you sent notes because you knew about Shannon or you knew about Dexter and asking about them. I appreciate all of you who cared. It meant a lot to us, and we appreciate it. So thanks for being with us. So we're going to talk today about what's next for the Raiders. What's next? What's going on? How do I expect everything to be resolved with this franchise? A lot of issues like that. So let's just dig right in. Let's talk first about the elephant in the room, and this will be AP and his return or not returning. There's a couple things here that I think are important. And one of them is my opinion doesn't matter. But if I am Mark Davis, I have to sit down with Tom Brady and Tom Telesco, and I have to make a decision about the direction of this franchise. I've talked ad nauseum about stability, about they've got to get to the place of stability. They've got to get someplace. They've got to get a vision. They've got to know where they're going. Whoever the next coach is, they absolutely cannot afford to, a year and a half into it, the fan base is all ticked off. All right, let's fire him and change schemes again. Here's what's going to happen if that continues. You're going to alienate your star players, and they're not going to want to be here. They want to be part of a winner. And once they get those big checks, the real winners, it makes them work harder. They want to work harder because now they want the championship. Or as one player said to me recently, on another team, not the Raiders, he goes, "Man, I got the money. Now I need the chip." And so that is the first thing. And as they're evaluating AP and everything else, I think they certainly have to look at stability. They certainly have to look at sustainability. They need to look at all of those decisions. But as you know, before AP was hired as the interim coach, I made the statement to everyone, you don't go hire a rookie coach when you are the Raiders. But he wasn't a rookie coach. He had the experience of an interim, and then your fan base and your players fell in love with him. And Mark really didn't have a decision. He did not have a decision. And so the first thing that I would determine is the Raiders need to assess, what do they think of AP as a coach? Now, I shared this with you before. Every coach, you give them 20 games. But I told everyone last year when AP got hired, he's going to make rookie mistakes. So when you sit down and evaluate Antonio Pierce, you certainly have to look at the rookie mistakes. I can tell you this, Dan Campbell, as recently as just within the last couple of weeks, made a mistake that people belabored and bemoaned as a rookie mistake. And he's not a rookie, but they're going to have to look at those and say, was it a mistake where he didn't learn? Or was it a mistake where that's just how he's going to coach and we're not happy with that? I don't know the answer. That's up for them to make. I know, again, I know what I would do, but what I would do doesn't matter. It's what's Mark going to do. The next thing they're going to have to do is I think they need to discuss, what is it? Where are we going? What we want to be? What do we want to run on offense? What do we want to run on defense? Maybe that doesn't matter to them. Maybe it's we just need to find the coach we want and let him run his schemes. I've seen teams do that and succeed. Others, they determine what they want to do and then go hire a coach that does it. The point of the matter is the whether AP keeps his job or doesn't keep his job, none of us are going to have a say in it. But the Raiders, if you just get rid of AP and you don't know where you're going, That is a foolish move. Now, if you assess them and say, listen, we don't think that this is our plan, you have a contract with them and both have a buyout. Both teams have a buyout. If the Giants came tomorrow and said to AP, we want to hire you, he's got a buyout. He could get out. It wouldn't be him turning on the franchise. That's what buyouts are for. But that is the most important thing. They've got to determine who are they. Is it a coach or is it a scheme? And then do they go get a coach to fit their scheme? Now, I was the first to tell you back in September when someone asked me on one of my Q&A podcasts if AP's let go, who's going to be the coach? Mike Vrabel. I don't think this is up for debate. If I was the Raiders, I think Ben Johnson's going to be a good coach. I don't go hire Ben Johnson if I'm the Raiders. You hire Ben Johnson when you are a franchise that doesn't have a storied history, when you don't have all the talent that you have, and you let that guy learn and grow into it. The Raiders don't have time for that. Ben Johnson's going to come in. Ben Johnson's going to make a bunch of rookie mistakes because that's what rookie head coaches do. Plus, I don't believe, and I have not talked to Ben, but I've talked to people very close to Ben. The Raiders' reputation is they just have a quick hairline trigger, and most guys who are looking for their first job are looking for the most best place to win. The Raiders are not settled at quarterback, and Aiden O'Connell may be a QB1, he may not. Nobody knows. But they're not settled there. Well, there's some jobs that are open that are settled at quarterback. The Bears, the Jags. I mean, I know the Jags isn't open, but I'm saying that's a job that's probably coming open. There's some appeal with that job. So that's going to be a big one. I can tell you that I 100% believe if the Raiders offer the job, Vrabel will take it. I believe that. And I have reason to believe that, but that's just my opinion. So they have to determine where are they at. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me, if AP wins on Sunday, do you think it's enough to get him his job? I'm going to tell you this. Mark Davis said at the owners' meetings he wants to see improvement. I do think the team is improved. This is not a statement for or against AP, but it's a statement of reality. If the last game of the year is a determination about whether or not he gets the job, then I think the decision has to have already been made. I would never go into a last game of the year. Well, if he wins it, he keeps the job. If he doesn't, why? Because we've seen guys that win. Look what happened last year. The Raiders won, but look how they had a 10-game losing streak. That doesn't sit. That's not copacetic with me as smart leadership. So I want to believe, and I don't know this, I want to believe that Sunday's game, win, lose, or draw, really doesn't have a lot to do with it. I would hope if they're going to keep them, they've already made that decision. If they think they're going to move on, that they've already made that decision. Now, as soon as the season's over, we'll talk to AP, of course, after the game and on Monday. I would hope, and I have reason to believe this, that then the Raiders are going to be introspective. I would expect them to somewhere in that between then and Friday, maybe Saturday, to really make a decision about what are they doing? What direction are they going? And again, if they move on from AP, I will be stunned if Mike Vrabel is not the coach. But that's the whole situation. The purpose of this podcast is not a pro or anti AP. It's just the reality of reporting. This is where this franchise at. They have to make a decision about where they're going. I did a podcast last week about apathy and about the danger of apathy. Because if this Raider team, they're not going to get a whole bunch more chances. Now, let me give you an example. Okay. This fan base, Mark Davis wanted to give Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler the rest of last year and at least to start this year. That was his desire. It's what he told them. It was what his plan was. Okay. And he had some influence, and I'm not referring to Tom Brady, not much, but I'm told there were two particular people, I'm not going to get into who, who were influential in him making a decision to move on from Josh. At least, I don't know. I'm not saying they made the call, but I think their opinion mattered. But they move on from Josh. And this fan base never gave Josh an opportunity. They were against him as soon as the first loss. And I had people, I'm done. I won't be back till Josh McDaniels is fired. And that's fine. That's a fan's perspective. But this franchise has to be very careful. Mike Vrabel's a Patriot. And Tom Brady's a Patriot. And I don't care if Tom Brady is used to being universally loved and respected. And I believe Raider Nation is going to respect him, not love him, but respect him until they have reason not to. Well, Tom Brady certainly had an opinion and a say when it came to Josh McDaniels. I know that for a fact, and that did not work out. So then the question is, they've got to be careful. I don't think the Raiders can do what they did with the hiring of AP. I think if whoever they hire, or if they retain Antonio, Mark Davis, Tom Brady, and Tom Telesco need to get out there in front of the media, not because of us. Please hear that. I don't like the mentality in the media that they're entitled, but they need to speak to Raider Nation. Maybe they have an event at Allegiant, invite all season ticket holders to come and say, all right, no media, but we're going to talk to all the season ticket holders. Okay. And then broadcast it over YouTube. I'm bringing this up because I don't want you to think I'm coming at it from they owe the media. They don't owe the media anything. But I think they've got to speak to Raider Nation. Raider Nation is very discombobulated right now. And if they go in a Vrabel direction or they go in an AP direction, I think they need to hear. I've said this multiple times. Mark Davis, and I have gotten to know him and I greatly respect him. And guess what? My credentials aren't taken away if I disagree with Mark Davis. First of all, you don't know him if you think that's him. He's not a petty person. Mark Davis wants to win. Mark Davis would be the first to rip himself that the Raiders haven't won. Say, Hondo, how do you know it? Because I heard him. But I think they need to talk to Raider Nation. They need to say, listen, you know what? It's been a rough 2 decades. But we feel like with the addition of Tom Brady and the team that we have, we are going finally in the right direction. We've had 2 really good drafts. But we're just going to tell you right now, you can not like the next coach, or you can love the next coach, whatever you want, or you can love or hate AP, but we're sticking with him. He's going to get, if it's a new one, 3 years. If it's AP, he's going to get another year. I think they owe that to the fan, and they owe it. And Raider Nation is smart enough to say, okay, we get it. You're trying to bring some stability. But let's assume both sides of the coin. Let's assume they retain AP. Okay? So they go and they retain him, which at this point, I'm going to tell you, I don't believe. If I had to bet one way or another, I think that they will probably make a change. That's not me saying they should. I'm just going off some things. I'll address that in a minute. But let's say that they keep AP. All right. I think they have to address the fan base. Listen, it doesn't do us good when you guys are out there being toxic. This is our team. We've got to get some stability. We're going to ride it. We'll come back and review it at the end of the year, but we're going to ride it. And if they move on from AP, I think Mark needs to get up and he needs to talk to the fans and say, listen, we screwed up. We've made some bad hires. We've had some things happen that we weren't expecting. But we feel like we're in the right direction now. We're going to bring a coach in. I'm not even going to answer questions about his future. The guy is going to get 3 years. Let's go. And then you have to pick that guy. Again, I believe it will be Vrabel. And you pick that guy and you go do what you do. And you know what? You got to be prepared that the fans are going to be mad because they're tired of it. They've had enough of it. And you can't blame them. And when they're not showing up and they're booing and they're mad, you have to stay the course. Leaders, good leaders, aren't moved by opinion polls. They're not moved by players. They're moved. There's an old saying, by Charles Finney. I am not moved by what I see. I'm not moved by what I taste. I'm not moved by what I smell. I'm not moved by what I see or what I hear. I am only moved by one thing, and that is what I believe. And I think that is where they need to go, is with the mentality of this is the direction we feel we need to go, and we're going to ride it. Now, there's a problem here. This is a double-edged sword. Let's assume that Vrabel gets the job and does great. All right, wonderful. Raiders are rocking and rolling. But in the NFL, coaches are hired to be fired. So let's assume Vrabel gets in, and for whatever reason, it doesn't work. Okay. He did some good things in Tennessee, but remember, when they left town, they ran him out of town. Fans were glad he was gone. So if Vrabel fails, now that's 2 strikes against Brady. Whether it's fair or not is not the debate. It is the reality. Now you got a fan base. You don't want him turning on Tom if he's going to have a lot, especially if in 4 years he's coming to run football operations. You don't want him to turn on Tom. But what if they go select the first round quarterback? And with a 60% fail rate, what if Vrabel and that guy fail? Now you're at 3 strikes. This is just dangerous ground. And I think that the Raiders have to get this right. To me, the biggest decision is not quarterback, and the biggest decision is not coach. In fact, if I'm Mark Davis, I don't even want to talk about AP's future. I don't want to talk about the quarterback position till I get in a room with my brain trust. I have to tell you, Richard Seymour needs to be part of that. Tom Brady, Tom Telesco. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think Tom Telesco has done anything to lose his job. I believe the Raiders would be making a mistake getting rid of Tom Telesco. I think he's done a very, very good job considering the situation that he inherited. And I've had some people say, well, no, he didn't. He hired AP. No, he didn't. AP had the job before him. Now, it doesn't mean that he wouldn't have hired him, but I'm just saying you can't blame that on him. But I think the first thing you have to do is do a huddle. And if I'm Mark Davis, I'm getting in a plane. I'm headed to Tampa Bay, where Tom Brady lives. And I know he's doing games, but during the week, where he's in Tampa with his kids, I'm huddling. What are we going to be? What are we going to be? And again, it doesn't mean a scheme. It can mean a scheme, but it doesn't have to mean a scheme. What are we going to be? And I'm using Mark Davis's voice. Because here is the deal. You can only keep being wrong so long, and the fans will begin to turn. And there already is a lot of angst in Raider Nation, but I do not believe that they've turned. I've had several people that sent me emails, I'm done, I'm out of here. And then a couple weeks later, I get an email from them again, and I just chuckle. Because they love it. They care. But you're close to them checking out. Okay. And then here's the other one. I do not believe, and I know there are a lot of people that do, I do not believe there has been enough definitive proof that Aiden O'Connell is a QB1. I don't think there's been enough definitive proof to believe that he isn't. So until you know what you have, I think you have to draft a quarterback. So here's the dilemma. Do you think a Shedeur or a Cam Ward are worthy of a top pick? If you think they're sure, can't miss, then you give up all the capital to move up and get them. But if you're not sure, you don't give up all that capital, because if that quarterback fails, you are setting your franchise back 3 years. Listen, people want to point to San Francisco because they just failed miserably with Trey Lance, which was their own fault. Trey Lance's failure was not a surprise to very many teams in the NFL. Now, in fairness, I don't believe the leadership, talking about GM and coach, John Lynch and Shanahan, wanted to pick Trey Lance. And I've learned that from people who are part of the organization. They believe that came from above John Lynch. But they were able to, they stole one with Brock Purdy. Okay. But that is, could they blow it at quarterback and Aiden O'Connell flourish? They could. But now they have to, after they make a decision of the direction, now they got to pick a coach. Do they stay with AP or go in a different direction? Then they have to go make the decision. What about quarterback? Do they spend a lot of capital to move up? Do they wait and see what falls to them? Or do they keep the BPA, best player available? There's a lot of questions here. The Raiders are headed towards a fascinating offseason. There is a multiplicity of more questions than there are answers. You've got a lot of talented players on this team. I've said it once and I will say it again. There is no rebuild necessary. Now, if they come in and get a coach and completely change the scheme where the players don't work, then they will go through a rebuild. In which case, okay, you understand it. They got a lot of players they can trade. But then after you determine your future and your coach, you got to go talk to him, Max Crosby. No guaranteed money on his deal. Max has not told me this. This is purely Hondo. He doesn't get his new deal. I wouldn't play if I was him. And then you have to go sell that guy. Here's the future. You're going to have to sell a Trayvon Merrick. You're going to have to sell a Robert Spillane. Why should you come back here? Other teams are going to pay those guys big money. And there's going to be some, again, I know I will be shocked if Spillane hits the open market and he's not a Buffalo Bill. I'll just leave it right there. Merrick, lots of teams love Merrick. Every team loves Max. So then you have to make a decision. So there are a lot of questions here. And if you really want to know the truth, I'm looking forward to watching the game because I enjoy football. And I would love to see AP get this last win. I would love to see the players get the win. They've worked hard. They fought. They haven't quit. I would love to see that. But the moment this game is over, it all switches to 2025. You got to just close the door in 2024. And do I think some of this discussion has gone on? I do. Do I believe it's close to finished? I don't. But they've got to make some decisions. They're going to have to make some hard decisions. If you saw the video with Patrick Graham and Scott Turner, neither one of them gave any indication that they expect nor really want to return to the Raiders. I know both of them are going to have multiple jobs. And I'm telling you, I had an NFL general manager tell me one time every year after the season, the first thing he did is meet with his owner. The second thing he did is met with his head coach. Then after he met with his head coach, then he said to the coach, let's go through all your coaches. Let's talk about all your coaches. How many of them have other teams that want them? And if they had players, if they had coaches that other teams didn't want, he'd say, if other teams don't want them, why do we want them? If I am the Raiders and I am willing to let Patrick Graham leave, now they can't keep him, but the fact that Patrick Graham has made it all clear he didn't want to talk about staying, and I believe Patrick Graham is giving the Raiders everything he has, but certainly looking towards the future. Same with Scott Turner. Okay, that should concern you. Robbie Leonard is going to have a lot of opportunities to go a lot of places. That's a very big deal. And there are other coaches. They're certainly not the only ones. But there are good coaches here who you can tell are really coaching their tail off. So those are all questions you have to ask. Okay, now let's ask another question. Let's say that they stay with AP, but Patrick Graham doesn't want to be here. Scott Turner doesn't want to be here. Okay, AP, who are you going to go get? Getsy didn't work. If he had gone with Scott Turner at the beginning, we may not be having this conversation today. So convince us, and this is what I'm doing if I'm Telesco, Mark Davis, and Tom Brady, if I decide to keep AP, who are you going to go hire? Who? Sell us on that. And then if you go in a different direction with a new coach, hey, are you going to try to keep some of these staff? I'm going to tell you what, you got Adam Butler's a guy. They got to prioritize re-signing Adam. But and Coons, I already talked about Max. I think there would be some real, you would have to sell some of these guys to come back without a Patrick Graham, without a Robbie Leonard, because those guys have done a good job. I mean, I asked Patrick Graham yesterday, you've done a good job. And he, no, I haven't. We haven't won. He's being extremely humble. I had 3 NFL people, not even Raiders people, text me, fantastic question. And you're right. He has. You just don't throw quality assistants away, and you do everything you can to keep them. Okay, so the next coach coming in, which I'm going to tell you, I would not recommend it be a first-time coach, and because I think it will be variable. Let's talk about, okay, Mike, who you bringing? And are they better than a Robbie Leonard? Are they better than a Patrick Graham, which they would be very difficult? Are they better than a Scott Turner? Maybe, but he's done a very good job. Those are all questions that have to be asked. I'm going to be very blunt with you. This is the most questions going into an off season in my 5 years, and Monday will be 6 years, that I've ever seen from this team. Who are they? What are they? What's next? That's what this team has to figure out. And I'm going to say it right now. I think the Mark Davis that I have gotten to know is incredibly genuine. And I think he's very kind. I'm not saying, I know people say, oh, Hondo's kissing Mark Davis's butt. Then you don't know me. And guess what? If you don't know me, your opinion doesn't matter to me. My dad one time said, only worry about the people's opinion that you would ask advice from. And then he also said, only worry about the people who will cry at your funeral, and they're crying because they miss you. And so I'm not worried about that. I'm literally not worried about it. But the Mark Davis I've gotten to know, I wish all of you got to know. Because some parts of what people don't like about Mark, I think were genuine early in his tenure. His father didn't teach him how to run a franchise. But the Mark Davis I know today is extremely genuine. And I'll tell you this much. I have not always believed this. Okay. I'm not going to get into what I disagreed with because I've talked about it in the past. It doesn't matter. But whatever decision, right or wrong, Mark Davis makes, it's going to be the one that he is truthfully believes is the right one. It's not going to have anything to do with money. It's not going to have anything to do with anything other than he just wants to win. He just wants to win. That's it. And so I think it would behoove Mark. If you think I'm doing it for a media thing, then do it at Allegiant Stadium, invite the fans. And if I'm Mark, I get up there, I sit on the stage, I bring in Jimmy Plunkett or Rich Gannon, probably Rich Gannon. Let Rich control the conversation and just let Mark talk. Or go in the studio, Silver and Black Studios, shoot a YouTube video. Make sure Tom Brady's there. Hey, this is what we think. Raider Nation doesn't want to hate Mark Davis, and Raider Nation doesn't want to hate their team. They're just tired of the mediocrity. And so this is why whatever decision they make, they have got to come out and sell their fan base. This is what we're doing. You may not like it. That's fine. We're not mad at you, but we're not wavering. They're just need to set their face as a flint. Be hardcore. We're not wavering. It's the only way they're going to fix the Raiders. So while a lot of people are debating about which quarterback, which coach, keep AP, don't keep OP, Aiden's the answer, Aiden's not the answer, those are all the wrong questions. Because let's say AP is going to be the next John Madden. He won't be if the franchise doesn't have stability and direction. And let's say he's going to be a disaster. It won't matter if they don't have stability and direction. And let's say that Aiden O'Connell is the next Kenny Stabler. It won't matter without stability and direction. And let's say he's a failure. It won't matter without stability and direction. They have to look into the pool of water and ask themselves, who are we? That's next. As soon as that game's over Sunday, bam, the focus has to change. Immediately. It's got to be fixed. It's going to be fascinating. We're going to walk you through the entire thing. We'll see you tomorrow, folks, on our podcast tomorrow. And then, of course, on Sunday. And again, if you're in Lot J, I would love a chance to meet you. I know that Shannon would as well. Even little Dexter would love to. Dexter loves meeting the fans. So we'll see you all in Lot J if you're at the game. Big times ahead. We'll see you all soon. Thanks, everybody.